Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. Internet world. Everybody watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Everybody listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon. You are listening and tuning in to the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral. Another day, Thursday. Welcome in. We are, week number 2 of August, so we are right around the corner. I think 23 days away. 23 days away from Alabama kicking off against MTSU. The Blue Raiders coming into town here pretty soon. Hey, we're going to have a fun day. We're going to have a fun Thursday right here on the program. We invite you, of course, to jump in and join us all on the comment side of things. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can jump in and join us. Just search it up, Joe Gaither 6 on all the platforms. I actually got the Facebook platform changed from Joe Gaither 31 to Joe Gaither 6. So now every platform that you want to find me on, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever else platforms that are out there, you can find me at Joe Gaither 6 and send me your comments, your questions, queries, and complaints. We're going to have a fun show today. Before we get into it, we want to tell you to subscribe to other BamaCentral Broadcasting Network podcasts. We've got our friends Katie Wyndham and Austin Hannon putting out all things Bama. They had Joey Blackwell on earlier in the week. Joey Blackwell, former beat writer and reporter for BamaCentral.com. He joined us to talk about Alabama football. And then, of course, we're going to have our friends Blue Collar Unplugged putting out an episode later in the week. Blake Byler, Matthew Gibson, and Jacob Pickle getting together for Blue Collar Unplugged, talking all things Alabama basketball related. So what are we going to do today on our show? We're right here in kind of a weird, not really a lull, but we're kind of waiting on real football to get going. We got to see some football last weekend in Bryant-Denny Stadium. The guys will scrimmage again this weekend, but it will be closed to me. It'll be closed to the general public. You'll have to be invited in via certain invitations. I think Red Elephant Club will be invited in, but I will not be invited, and unfortunately, the general public will not be invited to watch the scrimmage this weekend. But the guys will scrimmage again this weekend. The real football for us that we can all consume together will be NFL preseason. Week number 1 gets kicked off, I think, on Friday. I think we're actually going to have some games on Friday. I'm really actually focused on Saturday, Bears and Titans. So we will see what my Chicago Bears look like. Just a sidebar, the Bears offensive line today in practice getting absolutely decimated. Let's talk a lot about Nick Saban. Let's talk Nick Saban. We've got Nick Saban on the docket. I've got Devontae Smith on the docket. I've got Aaron Rodgers and Bryce Young on the docket. And we'll finish up with a little bit of Alabama softball, as Alabama softball had just a smidgen of news yesterday. So let's start with Nick Saban. Of course, the king, the GOAT, the greatest college football coach ever. You want to argue with me? Fine. Take it up with your mama. I'll give you top 3. You want to talk about Bear Bryant and anybody else, that's okay. But Coach Saban, the greatest college football coach in my generation, easily, was at the podium yesterday in the Naylor Stone media room, and oh boy, he was in a spicy mood, and it was a lot of fun. It was interesting. I remember yesterday, if you listened to yesterday's program, I admitted to you guys that I don't often love the Nick Saban press conferences because he doesn't always show his personality, and he doesn't always, he's usually very controlled and constructed and very calculated with his messaging. I think he was still controlled, calculated with his messaging, but he showed a little spice yesterday, and so it was a lot of fun to be into the Naylor Stone media room, listening to Coach Saban, about a 15-minute period. He got in there about 4:45, 4:50 or so, scheduled originally at 4:30. When I pulled up to Malmore Center, I could hear the practice horn going off for the next period, and I realized, they're running a little bit behind. So let's talk. Coach Saban comes in. He comes in, and his opening statement basically revolves and centers around consistency and performance. I think two things right off the bat. One, I think the heat really I don't want to say bothered, but I think the heat affected the Alabama football team yesterday and Nick Saban himself. I do. I think Nick Saban was a little ornery yesterday with the media because of the heat factor. He came in. The first little comment that he made was, "Hey guys, y'all enjoying the AC?" And coach, thank you. No big deal. Like you crack on the media all you want. It's no problem for me. We are enjoying the air conditioning. We volunteered to do the press conferences outside, and we volunteered to spend the 2.5 hours outside watching practice. But he quickly shut that down. Coach Saban yesterday opened up his press conference really by talking about consistency in performance and really highlighting the last portion of practice. I think the last portion of practice probably did not go as well as he would have liked. And so he highlights the LSU game and the Tennessee game and really says we need to focus on the last period of practice and make it as crisp and as efficient and make it as consistent as the first period of practice. Coach Saban talked about offensive linemen making correct checks, secondaries making correct checks, everyone communicating all the way through the entirety of practice. Coach Saban highlighting the two longest games of the year last year. Look, that's a fine for Joe. I got to turn my ringer off on my phone. Somebody calling me on the show. We got to turn the ringer off. Sorry about that. Coach Saban yesterday highlighting the Tennessee and LSU matchups from last season. Obviously, the two games that Alabama lost. And terrible. We don't want to have any losses, and it was terrible. It was not fun. We've talked about the reasons why ad nauseum throughout the offseason. Coach Saban really leaning on and saying, okay, those are our two longest games of the year, 4 hours apiece. 4 hours apiece, and you've got two factors at play. One, CBS. Okay, you remember those are two CBS games, and CBS milked every single second of those matchups. One, CBS, we got to do a little better this year, and hopefully when we move to ESPN, we can do a little better having a more efficient game, having a quicker game. Too many commercial breaks, stretching the games out. Look, if you just take, and this is just football in general, if you just take all the plays, snap, and you cut out all the commercials, and you cut out all the dead spaces, you're only getting about 35, 40 minutes of action. Now, you spread that 35, 40 minutes of action over 4 hours, and really, yes, you are mentally taxing our players. You're mentally taxing our players. You're mentally taxing the other players. It's just not, I don't know. I don't know if that's the best product to put on the field, to put on your television. Now, obviously, we're all watching football anyways, but a 2:30 kickoff that ends at 7:30 is just, I don't know. That's no fun. I think that's hurts the product that you're trying to put on from a CBS perspective. But Coach Saban, there's nothing Coach Saban can do about what CBS is going to do and what ESPN is going to do and how they're going to run their games. So Coach Saban emphasizing the fact that Alabama, our players, our team needs to be more focused throughout the course of the game, the 4-hour game, and how they can do that and what they can do is stretch and push the Alabama team during practice. And he really emphasized the end of practice needs to be just as good and just as crisp as the beginning of practice. It seems like Coach is seeing a lot of good competitiveness out there through the first handful of days in practice. Now, look, yesterday was the first day in pads, and so Coach, acknowledged that ramps up the level of intensity just a little bit. And if you are not living in Tuscaloosa or in the West Alabama area, you're watching us from out of town. One, I thank you for that. I appreciate anybody watching, but it was so swampy hot yesterday. It was swampy hot. It was hot like you were walking out of your door and you're swimming through the humidity. You turn on the Weather Channel app and it says the heat index is 104, 105. Really at 7 o'clock when I had dinner. I had dinner last night about 7:20 or so after Coach Saban wrapped his stuff up. I went and had dinner. Appreciate that. And I looked on my weather app and I still saw 102 on the heat index, and just absolutely brutal. And look, I'm not an athlete. We've done this before. I'm an average athlete. I'm, right at 5'10", 180. I'm not really, getting after it that much. When I'm walking Abby, walking the dog, I'm drenched in sweat. And we're only going 35, 45 minutes. We're not doing anything crazy. We're not doing anything wild. Nothing at a world-class level like the Alabama Crimson Tide football team is. And I am sweating. It takes me about 20 minutes after a walk to kind of cool down. So for the players, golly, going up against each other, pushing each other, really trying to fight for positions on the depth chart. It's got to be brutal. I mean, they started at 2:30 yesterday. And went through the middle of the afternoon. got to be brutal. And so Coach Saban highlighting that, and I think Coach Saban really utilizing the heat to try to push the players to places where they're a bit uncomfortable with themselves, a bit uncomfortable with the conditions, and really, you all know the Coach Bryant quote: "I want my players, if they're gonna quit, I want them to quit in practice, so I know, that." I want to know who's going to be out there for the games and who's going to be in there and giving it their all for the entirety of the games. Coach Saban, I think, drawing a little page out of the Coach Bryant playbook. I know those Coach Bryant notebooks still up there in the Malmore Center. So Coach Saban really highlighting yesterday, opening his conversation with the media about consistency in the performance and consistency throughout the entirety of the Alabama football practice. I think it's very good. Look, you think about Tennessee ran you ragged. Tennessee spread you out, ran you ragged. Not only did CBS do you no favors with a 4-hour game, but they ran you ragged. And really, Jaden Daniels did the same thing with LSU, using his mobility to stretch the field and just extend plays. And so defensively, defensively, we're going to have to be better conditioned going forward. I don't know who that falls on. I don't really want to say it falls on David Ballou. I don't think anybody's doing a bad job, but I think Coach Saban and I think Kevin Steele are going to raise the level of intensity, raise the level of raise what's required, raise the bar, raise the standard for how conditioned and how mentally tough the Alabama team is, and specifically the Alabama defense is. Coach Saban, I think he was a little ornery yesterday because I feel like the defense didn't have a bad day, but I think the offense had a bit of a better day yesterday, and that combined with the heat put Coach Saban in a little bit of an ornery mood. And so, no, we don't mind that, Coach. You have your prerogative to act however you want to after practices. I enjoyed the entertainment. I enjoyed the fact that it wasn't just vanilla. Well, we're working hard. Well, everything's going well. Well, we want to get better. No, I enjoyed the personality. I enjoyed the conversation yesterday with Coach Saban. Middle of the press conference, somebody asked, Coach, you're emphasizing the down in and down out consistency, and you're emphasizing trying to have play in and play out intensity. Do you think your message, do you think that everything is going well, or do you think you're seeing improvement? And Coach was so dry. Oh, Coach was perfect. He was so dry. He goes, well, I wouldn't be preaching it if I was pleased with what I was seeing. He just looked right at us and said, well, wouldn't be talking about it if everything was going well. And then he emphasized that even if it was going well, it can always be better, which he is right. It can always be better, but just hilarious. Coach was oh gosh, he was in his bag yesterday, calling the media soft due to the air conditioning. And Coach, yes, you see, maybe you don't see the fan over my head. It's nice and cool in my own home right now. And so I will accept the soft label, Coach, and I'm trying to get a little faster, trying to get a little stronger, trying to get a little slimmer, trying to be a little more disciplined. But yes, Coach, I will accept the soft label. All right, let's talk about actual football. One thing that he mentioned, the first question right off the bat. I got the first question off the bat, and I got the Pete Rose conversation left on the Nick Saban topic for yesterday's press conference. If you missed yesterday's press conference, you can check it out on BamaCentral's YouTube channel. Myself and Austin Hannon were right there. You can see it on the Alabama Athletics YouTube channel if you want to look at it right there as well. You get real clean audio off of that. Really, I'm filming off my phone, so not always the cleanest audio. We apologize for that, but we are there each and every day. Today, we had Katie Wyndham and Will Miller listening to and talking to, who were they talking to? Terry Arnold and Jermaine Burton. So you can look out for their conversations on BamaCentral.com. Katie Wyndham already putting up a piece titled "What Both Sides of the Ball Have Seen from the Alabama Quarterback Competition." So make sure you want to read that, Katie Wyndham, right there for BamaCentral.com. All right, so real football. Coach Saban talked. His first question was, hey, Coach, how is Terrence Ferguson doing? Terrence Ferguson, if you guys have not familiarized yourself with the new Alabama team, it's A-okay. You still have 23 days to get ready for the season. And partly that's what I'm here for. Terrence Ferguson, redshirt sophomore out of Georgia, as redshirt sophomore offensive lineman out of Georgia has really, it seemed like, worked himself into a starting offensive lineman position. Coach Saban talked yesterday about Terrence Ferguson and said, we're really pleased with him. Obviously, you want to see more consistency in performance. You got a lot of coach speak out of the Terrence Ferguson answer. But what really stood out to me in the Terrence Ferguson answer is Coach says, I view him as a starter, and I think we have 6 or 7 starters on the offensive line. Well, Coach, traditionally, you're the football expert. I am not. I am the football amateur. I like to watch it, but you are the expert, not me. But traditionally, from my amateur perspective, from what I have seen in my 33 years, you only play 5 offensive linemen. So if you're telling me that Alabama has 6 or 7 starters along the offensive line, that triggers me into two thoughts. One, positive, highly, highly, highly positive to have depth on the offensive line. Oh my gosh, think back. Think back to 2021. You were stretching, you were scrambling for depth on the offensive line. No disrespect to you, Chris Owens, but you weren't really at the Alabama starters level as far as offensive linemen. You threw out a right tackle that really wasn't ready to play. And he had some issues last year. I love you, Emil Ekiyor, but you had some issues with consistency and had some issues with physicality last year. But if Coach Saban, if you're going to tell me that you're walking into the year, now obviously you still got to get there, 23 days away. We knock on wood. We hope everyone is healthy. We don't want any injuries on Alabama or any other team. I despise preseason injuries. I despise injuries anyways, but I despise preseason injuries the most because these guys have been working their tails off over the summer. But yeah, we're 23 days away, and we're going to have 6 or 7 starting offensive linemen. It makes me think, who are they? What are we going to do? So I was out there at the practice on Saturday, or at the open scrimmage on Saturday, and from my vantage point, the starting offensive line looked like from left to right, looked like Caden Proctor, looked like Elijah Pritchett, looked like Seth McLaughlin, looked like Tyler Booker, and then looked like J.C. Latham. So we'll take those 5. But at some point during the practice, Elijah Pritchett Elijah Pritchett gets banged up. We don't know his status. Coach Saban hasn't updated us on his status, and I'm sure it didn't look serious, but you never know. I don't want to speculate. So when Elijah Pritchett was removed, or when he went to the locker room to kind of get that checked out, Terrence Ferguson was the first one in there. Terrence Ferguson makes your 6th, and then if you say, okay, where's the 7th? It's Darren Dalcourt. It's got to be Darren Dalcourt. Darren Dalcourt is basically a redshirt senior. He's been on the team for ages. You all know how he and Seth McLaughlin have battled back and forth at the center position for really their entirety of their career, at least the last 3 years. Seth McLaughlin really getting into the offensive line rotation in 21 and kind of fighting for that position in 22. I think he's got it locked down. You listen to Saban yesterday. He's asked about Seth McLaughlin, and he went as far as Coach Saban usually goes when he wants to highly praise a player. I mean, Coach Saban didn't out and out, say he's awesome and say he's great. But Coach Saban, let me get to his quote. Let's see what Coach Saban said. Yeah. Where's my Seth McLaughlin? Towards the end. Here we go. He does really, really well. So does Darren Dalcourt when playing center. I think when you have veteran guys that have sort of contributed, it's good. JC and those guys set the tone for the whole group with Seth. He's done a really, really good job. He's gotten bigger. He's gotten stronger. He's always had a tremendous attitude. I don't think anybody's ever going to go wrong hiring him. I don't care what he ends up doing. He's got the right stuff. So that really sounds like a Barrett Jones kind of a compliment. That really sounds like really, that's what it sounds like to me. Really complimenting Seth McLaughlin's personality, his intensity, his physical transformation, getting bigger and stronger, and just kind of his intensity, his mindset, setting the tone for the offensive line. I think Seth McLaughlin's locked down your center position. And so Dalcourt, you're trying to fight with Booker, you're trying to fight with Elijah Pritchett for one of those guard spots. You have 7 guys. I think Caden Proctor, oh my gosh. You're just going to have to throw him out there, and you're going to have to throw him out there and deal with some growing pains. But that man is huge. God, that man is huge. You're going to deal with a little foot speed issue as far as getting caught up to the college game, and you're going to deal with a little bit of an issue of dealing with college pass rushers. But look, you are in the best position possible. You get to deal with Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner each and every day. You get to deal with Keanu Coate. You get to deal with Keon Keeley. You get to deal with all kinds of edge rushers in Alabama practice. So Caden Proctor going to really, I think, going to be a great offensive lineman for the Alabama Crimson Tide. You think about Terrence Ferguson, and you think about what Coach Saban really said about Ferguson and about the offensive linemen. I hope that really the guys are really. I hope the players, or at least the coaches, are listening to the players, the leaders of the team, the offensive linemen talk. Okay, here's the full quote. Terrence Ferguson's playing really, really well. He's gotten bigger and stronger. He's also been very explosive and had an explosive power and body quickness. He's very confident in what he's doing. We're playing him at center some too, which he's done a very good job of. He's showing some maturity, and I look at him as a starter on our team. I think we have 6 or 7 guys who may be starters, so we're seeing what the best combination is as we go through camp. Now, Coach, perfect, great answer. Fully support from the peanut gallery over here. My only concern is I would love to see that offensive line, those 5, the first 5, get settled as quickly as possible. I know that a lot of conversation and concentration has been put on the quarterback position. Rightfully so. You're the face of the program. You're dealing with all the decision making. You're leading the offense. But to me, it's more important to find the first 5 offensive linemen than it is to find who's going to be the quarterback. Because I think, look, we've talked about it on the program. I think whoever you throw out at quarterback, whether it's Milroe or Simpson, I think those are your 2 options at this point. It's Milroe or Simpson. You throw them out there. If your first 5 offensive linemen look good, if your first 5 offensive linemen perform well, then look, everything's going to fall into shape. You're going to be able to play action pass. You're going to be able to run the ball. You've got great running backs. The coaches have raved about the running backs. To me, it's about finding the first 5, establishing physicality, establishing 5 fingers, 1 fist, punch the defense over and over and over again. Tyler Booker talking about we want to get into the 3rd and the 4th quarter, still running the ball, and these guys thinking, oh my gosh, would y'all stop? We cannot stop you. Coach, you know what you're doing. You're pro. You're a genius. Your football, your football mind is 10 times, 1,000 times, 100 times, 1,000,000 times beyond what I am over here in downtown Northport. But I would encourage you to really, really focus on finding that first 5 as soon as possible and really, really building the chemistry up with those first 5. Terrence Ferguson getting a lot of love yesterday from head coach Nick Saban, Seth McLaughlin as well. I think obviously J.C. Latham is your starter at right tackle. Look, you're guaranteed starters, if it's me, is McLaughlin at center, JC at right tackle, and Caden Proctor at left tackle. I think you figure out who your guards are between Tyler Booker. Look, Tyler Booker has gotten rave reviews for his nastiness. Tyler Booker, and then, okay, that leaves you with 1 open spot. Are you going to give it to Darren Dalcourt, Elijah Pritchett, or Terrence Ferguson? We'll see as fall camp rolls along. Let's keep going on the Nick Saban conversation. Nick Saban yesterday talking about the speakers that Alabama had come in over the last couple of days. And, okay, Coach Saban, obviously, look, the focus was on Pete Rose. Pete Rose, okay, this is going to be a little touchy, but you guys are just bear with me. You're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and on Amazon. This is going to be a little touchy and maybe a little critical of Coach Saban, but I got to be honest. Coach Saban a little bit disappointed me yesterday when talking about Pete Rose. Now, 1, he highlighted Pete Rose's competitive spirit. Okay, that's obvious. You put on a Pete Rose film, you see him sliding headfirst into first base, you see him getting into fights, you see him taking out catchers trying to score runs. Pete Rose was a bleep hole competitor. Much like Kobe Bryant, much like Michael Jordan, they had that. He has that bone in his body of just, I will die to win this contest. I will kill myself to win this contest, and I expect everybody else on my team to be the same. Now, look, you can feel however you want to feel about that style of competitiveness. I don't know that that's always the best. Obviously, MJ and Kobe and Pete Rose are among the best in their sport. But I don't know if the Michael Jordan fighting his teammate, punching Steve Kerr is really a story to be celebrated. I don't know that Kobe Bryant icing out his teammates is really stories to be celebrated. Now, look, Pete Rose, his competitive spirit is amazing, untold. World Series champion, great player, obviously all-time leading hits leader in Major League Baseball. What, over 4,000 hits? His career accolades on the baseball diamond speak for themselves. You just turn him on and you can see, wow, that is a special player easily. I mean, it's undeniable. It's absolutely undeniable. And so, from one perspective, you absolutely want to hear, this is what drove me to be a strong competitor. This is what made me want to fight for every at bat. This is what made me want to not give up anything to the other team. This is what made me want to keep every inch of everything that I ever earned. On one hand, I think that that's absolutely valuable, totally valuable for the Alabama Crimson Tide team to hear. Certainly. But coach, okay, Pete Rose, look, let's all be honest with ourselves. Pete Rose has a checkered past. Pete Rose has some skeletons in the closets. Pete Rose, obviously, the gambling issues are prevalent. The gambling on baseball is widely known, and he's admitted to that. And obviously, he was banned from baseball in 1989. He's been banned from baseball for 33 years. So, come on. We know the issues at play with Pete Rose. The secondary issue, a little more touchy and a lot more probably problematic, is he ended up in a sexual relationship with a minor in the late 70s. And come on, that's we all can agree. If you're watching this show, please agree. If you're disagreeing with me, I want to question. We can all agree that's bad news. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter. I don't care if she's 16, 17. You were a grown adult man, and oh gosh, well, okay, times are different, blah, 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 XYZ, excuse array. No, it's wrong. It's bad. Just, leave children alone. Leave children alone romantically, or leave children alone sexually. Let them grow up and, wait, come on, guys. Let's all be human and use our brains. And come on, that's icky. That's disgusting. But those two things stand out as kind of black marks on Pete Rose's past. And come on, Coach, you bring in Pete Rose, let's have him talk about life lessons. Coach was asked yesterday if Pete Rose addressed his gambling and addressed the sexual misconduct in his past, and Coach really kind of danced around the question. And look, that's fine. Coach might be wanting to protect Pete Rose. That could be one reason. Coach might be wanting to. The entire conversation could have been about gambling and the sexual misconduct, but Coach Saban may have wanted to protect Pete Rose. That certainly could be a possibility of why the question was answered the way it was yesterday. Coach said, "Oh, he talked about competitive spirit. Oh, he talked about playing hard." And then when pressed about, so he didn't talk about gambling, he didn't talk about his sexual misconduct. Coach kind of paused and said, well, he addressed it. He said he was wrong. He owned up to it, and he said that it was a mistake. And then he called the person who asked the question a mean name. But I'm not going to call you this mean name. Talking to my friend Nick Alvarez right behind me, and he said, but yeah, he did. I mean, he addressed it, but it was mostly about competitive spirit. I got a problem with that. I'm sorry, Coach. I got a problem with that because, look, Coach, look, Pete Rose's accolades on the field stand for themselves. One of the best baseball players to ever play. You can still make the Hall of Fame argument to this day, whether you want to say gambling on the game or not is worth keeping him out of the Hall of Fame or not. I don't want to argue that. Whatever, that's fine. He was a great player, well decorated, but you don't bring in the most prolific sports gambler, literally think who else? The 1918 White Sox are the only other sports gamblers that I can really. I mean, obviously, you see some news today coming out. Phil Mickelson has gambled over $1 billion in his career. You don't bring in the most prolific, notorious sports gambler and not have him focus his talk on gambling. I mean, come on, let's all be honest with ourselves. Alabama, we ran into some scandal in the spring. Coach Brad Bohannon giving insider information to somebody at a sports book and trying to, whether he was trying to make money or not or help out his friend, it was illegal. It's wrong. Alabama ran into an issue, and you're seeing issues at Iowa and Iowa State. You're seeing issues all across college athletics. We know the issues that our former Alabama players have had. Calvin Ridley suspended for an entire year. Jamison Williams suspended for 6 games this coming season due to gambling improprieties. And look, whether you like gambling or not is irrelevant. I enjoy paying attention to the lines. Did you see the person who put $200,000 or $300,000 on Alabama to win on the money line against MTSU? Oh my gosh, the net was going to be like $700. I hope Alabama wins. I'm sure Alabama will win, but goodness gracious, that person likes to gamble. Gambling is up to yourself. It is up to whatever you want to, your own position here. But coach, hey, how can you bring in the most prolific sports gambler, the one with the biggest black eye in the history of sports, and not have him focus his talk on, look, I did gamble. This was what it cost me. It's cost me millions of dollars, because he would still be in, I believe, honestly, he would have still managed through the 90s. I think he still would have managed through the 90s, and who knows how much longer. He would have been in the Hall of Fame. The value for Pete Rose it would be through the roof if he had never been kicked out of the game for gambling. I'm sorry, Coach. The main point, at least what I thought, the main point of these speakers, the speaker series, is to teach the players, to learn lessons. Now, look, you got to learn, and you want to teach, and you want to instill the competitive spirit of Pete Rose. If all 120 players, 85 scholarship guys, and the walk-ons, if they all adopted the Pete Rose competitive spirit, oh gosh, you would have a nasty Alabama football team on the field. You would, and that's guaranteed. I mean, goodness gracious. You would have, what was the phrase last year that Coach Saban used? Hateful competitors. We would love it. It would be great. You as Alabama fans would love every single weekend, because you wouldn't have to go into a week like we did last year. I wonder what Alabama team we're going to get this week. I wonder if we're going to be fired up and executing at a high level, or I wonder if we're going to be inconsistent. No. If everybody adopted the Pete Rose mindset to competition, this Alabama team would steamroll over everybody. And so, of course, that part of the lesson is valuable. But Coach Saban, you got to have Pete Rose talk about the gambling issue. For one, you have to. Guys, don't gamble on the game. You don't want to lose your college eligibility. You don't want to have that black mark on your reputation. Guys, wait till you're out of football to gamble. Wait till, don't gamble on football. If you need to gamble, go gamble on tiddlywinks. Something. Give positive advice. Take your negative story. Now, look, nobody likes to talk about their negative stories. Nobody likes to talk about their black marks. Look, I got divorced in 2021. I don't like to talk about it, but if it'll help somebody learn some lessons for their own marriage or make some decisions for their own life, I'll be happy to. Of course, it's embarrassing a little bit. Of course, I made some mistakes, but you just... Look, Pete Rose, if you're bringing in Pete Rose, if you're bringing in anybody with controversial past, they've got to address that head on with the team. And I think I felt like Coach Saban yesterday came off a little bit, and this is kind of bad, came off a little bit starstruck from Pete Rose's competitive spirit, from what he meant as a player. Obviously, Pete Rose was an amazing player. And was an amazing player at a time where Coach Saban was a younger man, and probably Coach Saban admired him and loved him as a player. But he came off a little bit starstruck and a little bit just so happy that he came and talked to the team about being a competitor and finding that competitive spirit. He addressed that Pete Rose talked about, I didn't have the most talent, I just worked the hardest. Now, that's absolutely an admirable trait, 100%. We love hard work in Tuscaloosa. We love it. And I hope, you, the listener, and you, the viewer, are working hard. I'm sure you're working hard in your own life. I'm trying to work hard in everything. Like, we love hard work. But there were extra layers that Pete Rose could have addressed. Now, look, the sexual misconduct, he never really got a whole lot of backlash or punishment from that. It kind of became water under the bridge. Honestly, if that never got addressed with the team, okay. I mean, you can bring in other speakers for that. But the gambling, golly, such a prevalent issue in Pete Rose's life. I think that if that was not a significant part of his discussion with the Alabama football team, then it is a severe missed opportunity from Coach Saban. And I don't really see Coach Saban missing a whole lot of opportunities. So maybe I will excuse. Maybe Coach Saban was doing the PR like he does in the media and just covering for. Well, I don't want to expose Pete Rose's entire discussion. And maybe that's kind of the track that he took yesterday. Could be one or the other. I wasn't in the room. I wasn't at the speech. I didn't hear it. So you got to take Coach Saban's word from yesterday, and I think it came off a little weak. It came off a little like we missed the mark from the Alabama football team's standpoint, and I don't like missing the mark. Look, you got a valuable resource. If you're able to go tap into Pete Rose and bring him into the team, hugely valuable resource. No other football team can do that. No other football team's bringing in celebrities like that. So, Coach Saban, I feel like you might have missed an opportunity right there. So, it wasn't all positive yesterday at the Naylor Stone Media Room. All right, let's keep this bad boy rolling. I got two more football topics, and then we'll switch to a softball topic before the end of the show. I appreciate everybody watching us. If you want to agree or disagree away. It's no problem. Right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, you can tune in or join us on the Facebook comments. You find me at Joe Gaither6. You can do it on the Twitter machine or on YouTube at Joe Gaither6. Send me your comments, questions, queries, and complaints, or just shoot me a DM on the Instagram or the Snapchat. It's all the same at Joe Gaither6. You can tell us how foolish we are, or maybe if you agree that Coach Saban missed the mark yesterday with the Pete Rose conversation. Okay, we touched on Henry Ruggs yesterday for just a moment, and I'm going back to it to highlight one thing. Yesterday, obviously, if you missed it, Henry Ruggs was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison due to his involvement of vehicular manslaughter of Miss Tina Tintor and her dog Max, November of last year. Tragic, terrible. Ugh! Makes me sick to think about from a Tina Tintor standpoint and from a Henry Ruggs standpoint. All parties involved were losers. But one thing I do want to highlight is Devontae Smith. Okay, look, sometimes you just need a friend. Sometimes you just need a friend. And even when you bleep up, even when you mess up royally, and Henry Ruggs did mess up royally. Yes, no, not excusing him at all. You need a friend. And so Devontae Smith, Heisman Trophy winner, Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver, lifetime friend of Henry Ruggs, asks his coach and gets permission to skip practice yesterday to attend and be at the hearing or at the sentencing of Henry Ruggs. And while, look, that doesn't condone the action for Henry Ruggs at all. Everyone needs a friend. Everyone needs a friend. In your lowest moments, and I hope you all realize that. I hope that you all have friends that you can lean on in your lowest moments. And I'm appreciative of my support system. And I want to just highlight and kudos and compliment Devontae Smith for saying, you know what, I could be at practice today, but there's something larger going on in my life, in my personal life, in my relationships. I need to be there for my friend as Henry Ruggs receives some very difficult news. Golly, you get 3 to 10 years? Terrible, difficult news. Absolutely difficult. And of course, look, no, it's nothing compared to the Tintor family who are not going to have Miss Tina Tintor around anymore. Obviously, that's also the most terrible news, obviously. But everyone needs a friend, and I want to compliment Devontae Smith for standing by his friend. Just because you're standing and supporting your friend as they're dealing with punishment, look, actions have consequences. I believe that Henry Ruggs is accepting the consequences of his actions. He put in a guilty plea. He didn't try to fight it. Obviously, part of that is probably what his lawyers advised, but he was apologetic to the family. He was apologetic to his fans. He was apologetic to the public yesterday. And so I think you'd probably see in Devontae accept some of that Henry Ruggs accept some of that responsibility. And I want to compliment him for that, as he has a very difficult 3 to 10 years ahead of him. And I want to compliment Devontae Smith and the Alabama Brotherhood for standing with him, supporting him as he deals with the consequences for his own actions. All right, one more topic on the football side of things, and then we'll flip it to, well, no, yeah, I'm not going to talk about OJ Simpson. You got to see this. OJ Simpson on the Twitter machine talked about how the sentencing is so messed up. I got 9 years for my robbery, and Devontae Smith gets Henry Rose gets 3 years. First off, OJ Simpson, you are not. You're not one to talk about sentencing or murder or anything. Goodness gracious. Oh, gosh. Before I hit the next topic, let's bring in my man, Jeff Wade. Love you, man. Thanks for jumping in on the comment. Back to the offensive line. I like the thought of them being back next year. With a year behind them, they could be the best O-line in 2024. Great point. Great point. Look at who the 6 or 7 guys are that Coach Saban is highlighting. You're probably only going to lose J.C. Latham. You're going to lose J.C. Latham, Dalcourt, and Seth McLaughlin. Those 3 guys. You'll move in. T.J. Ferguson will be a full-time starter. Caden Proctor will be a full-time starter. Pritchett and Booker will be a full-time starter. That's 4 guys. You'll only need to bring in 1 more full-time starter. Do I hear an Olas Lennon bell somewhere? Do I hear a Wilkin Thornby bell somewhere ringing, ready to step in? I think so, Jeff Wade. You're about to see, I think, 2 really strong years of offensive line play. I appreciate you jumping in and joining us on the comments. Yeah, it'll stink to lose JC. He'll probably be a top 15 pick. McLaughlin and Dalcourt will probably end up being later round picks just because of their body sizes and positions that they play. But to reload, to come in next year with 4 starters already on the offensive line, projecting 12 months ahead of time, and then to kind of slide in Olas or Wilkin Thornby in that other tackle spot. I like what you got right there. Speaking of, Terrence Ferguson, circling all the way back, Terrence Ferguson, coach talking about him working at center as well. Are we maybe preparing him to take over that center role after McLaughlin and Darren Dalcourt move on? Perhaps. I'm very wise of you, Coach Saban. Last topic for the football side of things before we flip to baseball, and I want to welcome in my mortal enemy, enemy, Aaron Rodgers. I absolutely despise Aaron Rodgers. You guys all know, big-time Bears fan, Aaron Rodgers, the tormentor of my life. But I bring Aaron Rodgers into the program because he talked about our man, Bryce Young. Yesterday, the Jets and the Panthers are doing joint practices, as the NFL is wont to do, and Aaron Rodgers was asked about Bryce Young, what he sees in Bryce Young, how he feels about Bryce Young, what he notices, and just any advice for Bryce Young. So we will go to my mortal enemy, Aaron Rodgers, right here. If you're watching on the YouTube side, you can see it. If you're listening on the Spotify side, you can hear it. This is Aaron Rodgers talking about one Bryce Young.
I love watching him in college. I like his demeanor. I like his movement. I like the way he throws. I trust a guy like Adam. Him and I are good buddies for a long time, and he just raves about him. So I think Carolina's in good hands. Be gentle with yourself. It's a long journey. It feels like every little snap and practice is the end of the world if it doesn't go right. It's just not true. It's a long journey. It's about holding on to your confidence and enjoying the ride, enjoying the little things every day. But I think he's got a great head on his shoulders, and he'll be just fine.
That's my mortal enemy, Aaron Rodgers, talking about our man, Bryce Young. Now, look, regardless of how I feel about Aaron Rodgers, we can all acknowledge how great he is, how talented he is as a quarterback. Just maybe don't like the team that he used to play for and some of the personality traits that he has exuded over the last decade and a half. But regardless, his advice is still strong. His eye for talent is still accurate. And Bryce Young has impressed with the Carolina Panthers already. Look, it took him all of a week in OTAs to earn the starting job. It took him all of half of practice once real fall camp started to have that starting job reconfirmed by Frank Reich. I think Bryce Young and the Panthers, look, do you think about the NFC South? You think about the NFC South. I know maybe a lot of you guys are Saints and or Falcons fans, and I respect that. That ain't no problem with me. Saints or Falcons fans, you're being the closest team here in Tuscaloosa. But the NFC South is wide open. Yeah, I know. I think it's the Saints to lose. They got Derek Carr. They're bringing back a pretty good defense. Obviously, Chris Olave going into his second year. They're trying to, establish the dominance. It's the Saints to lose, but I don't see an overly strong team in New Orleans. I see a very bad team in Tampa Bay. Sorry, Baker Mayfield. And I see a very mid team in Atlanta. I don't believe in Desmond Ridder. And so while I look at the Carolina Panthers roster, and I don't see a ton of weapons. Obviously, they traded away DJ Moore to my Chicago Bears. You brought in Adam Thielen. You traded Christian McCaffrey away. You brought in Miles Sanders to run the football. But baby Bryce is apparently still ripping up in practice, making throws, fitting it in the windows, and making plays. Look, I think Bryce Young, I just got this gut feeling. I got this gut feeling that the Panthers are going to win that division this year. And maybe I'm wrong. You'll check back with me in 8 months. Obviously, we'll monitor this. But I just got this gut feeling that Bryce Young is going to lead the Panthers to win the NFC South this year and prove to everyone that the size doesn't matter, that Bryce's arm strength and his ability to throw the football is still otherworldly. Look, I said it in previous shows and previous times. Bryce Young is the best quarterback I have ever seen with my own two eyes at this stage in their career, period. Look, when he was playing for Alabama, I thought this kid is a wizard. He's an absolute wizard playing quarterback. He has a lot of Aaron Rodgers' arm motions, a lot of his throw deliveries. He has a lot of his escapability. And he's got nice athleticism to run when he needs to. We saw that a handful of times last year when he really needed to. I think Bryce Young is, I'm going to go be bold. I think Bryce Young is going to lead the Carolina Panthers to win the NFC South. And the last thing on Bryce Young for today, look, I was watching Get Up this morning. You got to get going in the morning, Get Up on ESPN. Sometimes helps me do that. And they're talking about who's going to be the rookie of the year. And they're talking Bijan Robinson. And I'm sorry, are we fools? Look, yes, Bijan's going to be a very good player for the Falcons. I believe that. Go draft him in your fantasy leagues. He's going to be a valuable fantasy football player. But it's going to be Bryce Young's to lose. It's Bryce Young's or C.J. Stroud's to lose. And C.J. Stroud, look, I think the Texans are still a year away from being a year away. It's going to be Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud's to lose. And so not only do I think that the Carolina Panthers will win the NFC South this coming season, I think Bryce Young is a shoo-in to go win the Rookie of the Year. So if you're gambling, if you are gambling, let me just pull up Vegas odds for Rookie of the Year NFL. And you've got, Bryce Young is plus 400. So he has the second best odds. Bijan has plus 300, has the best odds. And then it goes Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, and then, our man Jahmyr Gibbs right after that. So Jahmyr Gibbs comes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth best odds to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year in the NFL. I think Bryce Young's going to be a shoo-in. Jeff Wade likes to disagree and thinks the Saints will win the division. Look, I think the Saints are the favorite. But I just don't know how well everything's going to mold together on offense. And so, look, it might be just the homer take. I love Bryce Young. And so we'll see what happens in the NFC South this year. Last thing for the day, and I appreciate everybody watching us. Jeff Wade, love you watching us on Facebook, Twitter. I appreciate everybody watching us on YouTube. You can join Jeff in the comments section if you want to. Comments, questions, queries, and complaints are obviously invited. Let's flip it to softball real quick. We've been here 48 minutes, and we're going to wrap it up here in the next 5 to 10. Let's flip it to Alabama softball real quick as a little bit of news dropped. Yesterday, Alabama softball releases a press release saying they're shuffling the staff. Look, all of you guys who are diehard Alabama softball fans are probably upset because Coach Patrick Murphy, after Alabama, thank you very much, Jeff. After Alabama got eliminated in the World Series, in the Women's College World Series last year, Patrick Murphy says, okay, we're hiring a hitting coach. We're going to hire a full-time hitting coach. And what did he do? He did hire a full-time hitting coach, but it was a promotion from within. It was a promotion. Adam Arbor was the former director of player development. Is that what I had him as? Basically, Ryan Iyamurray took over Adam Arbor's position. Ryan Iyamurray gets promoted from volunteer to full-time coordinator of player management. That's what Adam Arbor was in last year, coordinator of player management. Now he is full-time third assistant with a focus on hitters and catchers. Okay, this here's gonna probably be a little negative and might upset the might upset the diehards. I love Patrick Murphy. I do. I love Patrick Murphy. I think that he is absolutely still the right man for this job and absolutely still growing this program. He's poured his heart and soul into the Alabama softball program. But this shows just a little bit of my problem with Patrick Murphy. Patrick Murphy is loyal to a fault. Oh, he's loyal to a fault. And now that can be a good thing. Absolutely can be a good thing. But I think that one of the issues that you've seen over the last couple of years with the Alabama softball team is you've seen a little bit of what's the best way to say it? A little bit of he obviously treats it like a family. He does. He treats it like a family, and he doesn't. If you have established yourself in the family, you've worked hard, you kind of become a made man or woman. You see the former players hanging around the program. And while that is a symbol of strength, I also think it's a symbol of maybe sometimes you need to clear out some of the older voices and reset the program. Look, we're going to miss Montana Fouts. We're going to miss Jenna Johnson. We're going to miss Ashley Prangy this year. We're going to miss the catcher, Allie Shipman, this year. We are. We're going to miss those girls. They're veteran leaders. You go back the year prior, you see Kaylee Tao hanging around the program. You just have all these people still kind of building on having the same messaging over and over and over again. I think sometimes you got to freshen up. Now, Adam Arbor has been with the program for a long time. He started in 2012. He started in 2012 as a volunteer assistant and was on the staff that won the only national championship that the Alabama softball team has pulled in. Ryan Iamurray was a player on that team. And to a certain degree, I do believe in, these people have been here, done that. These people have helped us build the program. But Coach, I think Coach Murphy had an opportunity right here to maybe mix some things up, maybe bring in some new messaging. Not saying that Adam Arbor is going to do a bad job. No, I think he's going to work very hard. He's obviously established himself as someone who Coach Murphy trusts. And in Coach Murphy, I trust, ultimately. But I do have a little bit of a thought of, hey, do we need to mix some things up? Hey, do we need to bring new voices in? Not from the top. I think Coach Murphy is the perfect leader. But do you need to bring in somebody else, a different perspective to the hitting? Do you need to bring in a different perspective to player management, to just roster building? I don't know. And so, that's my uneducated take. And I will fully admit that that's an uneducated take because I am not a softball coach. I have just followed the program, the last 10, 12, 15 years or so. And so, look, Coach Murphy, we trust. But I think that you maybe Adam Arbor, the pressure's on. And I think the pressure it gets put on him by, promoting from within. And if the hitters end up having a great year, you have a better approach to the plate, a more patient approach to the plate, less swinging and missing, less slapping, less small ball, maybe a little more power. We need some power. You got to get it. Look, ever since Bailey Hempill has left the program, Bailey Hempill, awesome player. You're missing out on the power. You got to get a power bat. You look at Oklahoma. And obviously, Patty Gasso is building a monster and has built a monster out there in Oklahoma. They got home run power throughout the lineup. And it makes it very, very difficult to play them. And clearly, that part of that is recruiting, and part of that is philosophy. Maybe Alabama can shift just a tad. Look, I think small ball still has its place, definitely, but you got to mix small ball with power. And Adam Arbor, I think pressure is absolutely on him to see some success from the hitting side of things this year. So look, I'm going to support the hire. I'm absolutely going to support because they know more than I do. I'm going to and Ryan Iamurray gets put into this director of coordinator of player management, which seems to be described as gathering analytics and kind of basically being in charge of what to expect in game plans and getting ready for certain pitchers throw this pitch in this situation. So look, Iamurray, I think she's going to do a great job. She has really put her heart and soul into the program. Gone from volunteer assistant, now she is a full-time member of the staff in coordinator of player management. So that's going to really wrap us up for this program today. We talked about Nick Saban and all his comments yesterday. We talked about Pete Rose. We talked about Devontae Smith visiting Mr. Henry Ruggs and Aaron Rodgers visiting commenting on Bryce Young. And then we wrapped it up with a little bit of softball news as softball made some hires or made some staff changes, staff shuffling. That's probably the best way to put it. Staff shuffling yesterday. So look, I appreciate everybody joining us. Go listen to our other Bama Central podcast, All Things Bama with Katie Wyndham and Austin Hannon. Go listen to Blue Collar Unplugged with Jacob Pickle, Matthew Gibson, and Blake Byler. I always whoever the third one is in my list ever, I always have it like sitting off to the side of my head, side of my brain. Blue Collar Unplugged and All Things Bama. The three of us together, the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, make up the Bama Central Broadcasting Network. We love and appreciate Chris Walsh for putting us on each and every day. You can read and follow Chris Walsh at Writing Walsh on the Twitter machine. He is the head honcho in charge at Bama Central. Follow us at Bama Central on all the social medias. Read us at BamaCentral.com. We're the Sports Illustrated home for your Alabama Crimson Tide, covering all sports, football, of course, but all sports right there on BamaCentral.com. That's going to do it for my show today. I appreciate everybody watching us. Jeff Wade, thanks so much for jumping in on the comments today. You guys can always jump in on the comments on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or just shoot me a DM wherever you want at Joe Gaither 6 on all the social media platforms. I'll be back tomorrow for another episode. We are one day closer, now 23 days away from Alabama kicking it off against MTSU. And we'll be back for another episode tomorrow of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.